Hello. We'll give it another couple minutes while people get in here. How's everyone? Has everyone had enough water today? Very good. All right, people be joining left and right. This is good. And nobody hit the waiting room, right? But you all had to do a passcode, correct? Good. Okay. Oh, just likes you then, Peach, huh? You're blessed.
I just got a new yoga mat, so I'm trying to convince it to not curl up.
Very good. All right. Um, I didn't ask for requests today. I'm really sore. Before we get really actually going, does anybody have any requests? I'm not even sore yet. I'm like, my muscles are just so tired that I'm dead legging every third stair I go upstairs. So, um, but yeah, so we'll do some leg recovery for sure. Um, but if anybody else has any requests while we're at it,
You know me, hips.
shoulder stuff, back of shoulder stuff. Yeah. Wrist stuff always. Okay. Yep. Okay.
And hips.
Hips. Yeah. Okay. All right. So just total body recovery. Got it. Very good. We should totally do a hey Matt, could you guys maybe not be laughing and shrieking? Thanks. Um, okay. At some point we should definitely do some foam roller stuff and tennis ball stuff. That is something that I am intending to get together for the next week, sometime or two, probably maybe more than one time, I would imagine in the course of the next month. So, because I think there's room to be that stuff to be taught technique wise. There's not so much you can't do, everybody's bouquet of tightness and stiffness is a little bit different, but the techniques can be taught so that you can figure it out for your own self, and that is would be my goal. So stay tuned because we'll be doing something like that eventually as well. All right, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to take a seat. Let's go really loose, feet together and knees out to start. And while you're there, you can kind of put your hands anywhere, but if you aren't used to self-massaging your feet, this is a nice opportunity to just start to get into the bottom of your foot with your own hand. You can stretch your feet. Ever again, speaking of bouquets, everybody has a different combination of things being loose and tight. And feet run that full spectrum as well. So you might have something going on in your feet, and then it's up to you, unless you actually are working with a gait specialist, a foot specialist, to be able to get a little read on whether anything that you're feeling in your foot is coming from it being too tight or being not stable enough, right? So while you're here and you're touching, if your foot follows a general foot shape, there's not any bunions or major bones displaced or cartilage that's been worn down, chances are you're in the more stable category. This is an opportunity for you to be stretching out and massaging out those tightnesses. For if you're in the less stable category, you've got bunions, and bones have become displaced over time, this is an opportunity for you to retrain the muscles of your feet. So you can take your hands and your fingers in between your toes and pull and then resist, or push and then resist. So anytime it's hands to feet time, you have that opportunity as just sort of a mindfulness practice. If you're on the tighter side, fingers between the toes, squeeze and relax. Squeeze with the toes, squeeze the hand around the toes, back and forth a couple of times. So just get curious. So much of what can go wrong in a pose, or even just things like walking around, oftentimes can come from feet. All right, so let's call that done for now as a little mindfulness intro. And let's take a couple of breaths. So your hands can go anywhere that helps you to sit up straight. Sit up straight, make space in your rib cage, turn your abs on just a little bit, and breathe in 360 to your rib cage on your inhale. Exhale slowly through your nose. Take up as much space as you can with your ribs in all directions. Inhale. Make your exhale as long as it took you to breathe in. Let's go for 2 more like that. Breathe in slowly, hold it in at the top for a beat. Through your nose, exhale. This last one, hold it in at the top. Sip in a little extra air. Open your mouth. Very good. All right, take your feet, split your feet wide, reach down for your ankles, and you're gonna pull a little bit with your hands, lift your sternum up away from your pelvis, and then hinge forward, and you can go as far forward, you can almost take it like a seated happy baby. You can grab the bottom of your feet, and then you get to choose whether you keep your spine straight and organized, or whether you let your spine round. If you're choosing the rounding option, you may want a block or some sort of prop underneath your head. Breathe into the length of your spine. Notice what your hips are doing. That same sort of self-assessment exists right now for your hips. If your knees are flopping and they're flopping down to the ground and it's absolutely no resistance, chances are you are on the less stable side. If your knees are still up in the air and there's any sort of resistance at the inner thigh, chances are you're on the more stable side. So just examine, notice. If you're on the less stable side, you might want to engage a little bit so that you are in the shape with some muscular activation and not just maxing out what your joint is willing to do, because that might not be safe. So just be aware. Take one more big breath into your upper back and hold it in for a moment. Exhale slowly. Take your right hand to the inside center, right? Take your left hand to your left thigh or left hip. That's step 1. You want to make sure that you're stacking your ribs up rather than C-curving in either direction to set up this twist. From here, if it feels good, you can grab anywhere on your left leg with your right hand, and you can open your rib cage more. Just be aware to keep the line of your spine intact as you're twisting. It's a stacking of your ribs one over the other. Your hips stay both pointing forward. Be aware of lining up your head and neck with the rest of your spine. Take a breath in. Feel some length and opening in your upper back and middle back. Exhale to the center. Inhale, center. Exhale, plant your left hand. Take your right hand anywhere on your right leg. begin to twist. This twisting is happening through the engagement of your torso. Once you feel that turn on, you can go ahead and move your hands to express the shape a little bit deeper, but be aware of lining up your spine, head and neck in line with your upper and middle back, in line with your low back. Hips stay pointing forward. Good. Inhale, both arms up, cross your ankles. And exhale, again, hinge forward. Once you can't hinge anymore, round forward. Use a block if you want to or need to. Use this as an opportunity to breathe more into the ribs in your back body. This is a compressive shape in the front of your body, so there is some natural displacement happening of your ribs into your back. A lot of people have trouble finding the expansion of their lungs into the sides of their ribs and into the back of their ribs, so try to find that here. All right, roll up, put your hands behind you. Take a second. Up to you how far you take it. My hands are starting with my fingers pointing straight out to either side. Roll your shoulders open. Lift your chest up. Lift your sternum up. Okay, from here you can stay. If you want to spin your hands backward for a little bit more, if it's available to you, you can. The further your butt moves away from your hands, the more intense it's going to be. So if you need to back off, move your butt backward. You can play around, lift your chin up, drop your chin down 2 or 3 times. VinYin, it's time to be asleep. Okay, lift both arms up. And let's go, I could use a little wrist mobilization. So let's go left arm over, right arm under, and then bring your palms together, interlace your fingers, and lace it through. So we did left over, right this time, okay? So you can dip that away. You can pull it in so there's a little more slack and go a couple of circles in either directions with it. You can go in and out of the weave a couple of times. All right, open your arms wide. Inhale, both arms up. Exhale, cactus your arms, okay? And from this cactus position, I want you to spin your thumbs back and your pinkies forward. Keep opening your thumbs backward like they could touch behind you, and then rotate the bottom of your arms forward and your fingertips backward. Try to feel not just the muscles between your shoulders in toward your spine, but also some of the muscles behind the head of your shoulder. So rear delt, teres minor, anyways, a bunch of the tiny little muscles in the back of your shoulder. One more big breath in, reach up and look up. Exhale your right arm over your left arm, flip, interlace, and bring it through. Hang out, rock with it, send it away from you, go in and out of it a couple of times. If you're finding something that's getting into the nooks and the crannies of your wrists, then go with that. Okay, inhale, both arms up. Exhale, roll over your knees and make your way into tabletop position. From tabletop position, plant your hands firmly underneath your shoulders, and your knees are directly underneath your hips. Toes are custom, whatever you want. And we're gonna focus on some shoulder blade push-ups right now, because a lot of people are doing planks and push-ups, so we're gonna focus on isolating the sensation of protraction and retraction in your shoulder blades. So push the ground away, lift your chest up, and round your upper back like you're gonna do cat pose, but you're not changing the rest of your spine. You're just rounding your upper back as maximally as possible. And then you're gonna dip your chest down without bending your arms at all and pull your shoulder blades together. Retraction. Up, protraction, rounded back, down, shoulder blades together, retraction. Keep it going, a couple more times. Feel how your chest has to work very hard on your protraction and where there's some relaxation and ease in your chest on the retraction. And we'll go for one more. Up and down and sit it back. Child's pose. Send your arms long. In your child's pose, if you have the space for it, you can lift the center of your palm up off the ground so that your spidey fingers, just the tips of your fingers, are strongly rooted into the ground and your elbows are off of the ground. Roll forward, tabletop position. Plant your right hand a little underneath your nose, bias it a little bit toward the center. You're going to thread the needle, stack up, and then roll underneath you, but don't go down, hover. Wind it up, push your arm from the left to the right so that you can feel your lat and all that fascia wrapping from left to right, and then stack it back open. Under, contract between your armpit and your chest and the pec minor, and then stretch it out as you lift up. A couple more times. Last time, up. Good. Plant down through your left hand, and we'll repeat now with the other arm. Get a nice strong lift through your left arm. Reach your right arm up. Thread it through with purpose, and then stack. A couple more times. 5 total. Notice where you're putting the weight in your left hand. As you're doing this, you want that in the triad of your hand, the triangle that is comprised of your middle finger down to the wrist and over through the thumb, and then back up to the tip of your middle finger. Okay? Up, inhale, both arms down, walk your arms forward. There's a lot of levels to puppy. So here's what happens. You take your knees a little wider so it's easier to access sort of a sway back position. You can put your head on the ground. You can put your head on a block, right? If it's a big gap between your head and the ground, you want, instead of your hands being straight underneath your shoulder, arms long, and then head down. So head down supported is sort of bus stop number 1. Bus stop number 2 would be head all the way down to the ground, not supported. Bus stop number 3, you have a little more space to work with. Maybe you're swaying your back more and you can get your mouth down to the ground. Chin, front of chin, mouth, nose, smash into the ground. From there, you start to look more forward and you can get your chin, your throat, your chest on the ground. I am not there right now. Not there. I'm getting off at bus stop number 3 today. Maybe. I don't know. I'm opening up more. A little chest to ground. Okay, go ahead and slide all the way forward and down to your belly. So let's turn on posterior chain a little bit. So legs out wide, bend your knees, flex your ankles, and bring your heels together. And I'm propped up on my elbows, but I'm not going to prop myself up super duper high. It's not about the back bend here. It's about the inner thigh inner calf and bottom butt and interior pelvic floor being activated, okay? So squeeze the hell out of the space between your two heels, like you're gonna smash the molecules of your left heel and right heel into each other, and you wanna feel, whoo, all of that stuff turn on. Whoop, still cramping. And it's on. But you want that to be a nice, like, even distribution of on, right? So let it get all the way up into your pelvic floor and into your bottom butt. You don't want to actually engage your pelvic floor here. You want to be able to feel, okay, I'm not clenching, like trying to stop using the bathroom clenching, but my bottom butt is clenching. There's a difference there. And a lot of people, women and men, have a really hard time differentiating between the two. And then the pelvic floor gets all tight and funky and things go awry. So relax. Okay. And that was a good session, guys. I'm done. Just kidding. All right, let's go. Let's go low lunge. So push on up to all fours and slide your right leg forward. And okay, so there's a lot of variations, in terms of people's ability to access the low lunge space. So you might want something to put your hands on to bring you up. For lack of another prop, you can always bring yourself up to your own knee. That does tend to require more openness in your back leg, but for some people, there's a lot of density in that muscle. That muscle is willing to play, and being more upright is what is required to get the stretch. If you're up, outside hip, glute med, and everything has to be turned on. All right, so right now we're treating it like it's a stretch for your back leg. So you can be anywhere from up, like I am, to down with your head hanging. And both of those are very nice. This is sort of like if you were to go down to a back bend a couple of times, if it's available to you, that would sort of be expressing one end to the other of the range of motion in that back leg right now. So you're welcome to give that a try. We'll give it one or two more if you're doing it. Let's go ahead and sit it backward. Go shift back, but then bump your back knee back a couple of times so that you can stay down in your torso, and then you're gonna go forward and backward with your hamstring until you feel comfortable staying with a little bit of a half split. VinYin. Great. Go to bed. When you hit it and it feels like you can stay, go ahead and stay. And we'll be here for about 5 breaths. You are being totally irresponsible right now. Finish and go to sleep. Last chance. Now. All right. So you're going to shift, walk your hands to the left a quarter turn, kick your right leg out, and with your hands underneath your shoulders, cat and cow. Notice that this foot over here, I have my toes turned forward. I'm rounding my ankle. Again, if you have a flatter foot, even just spreading your fourth and pinky toe in a position like this can help to strengthen the muscles in your arch. So just be aware of that. All right, cat and cow, couple times. Inhale and look up, sway your back. Exhale, tuck your tailbone under, round your spine. And your mission here is to examine how your pelvis moves around between the two tilts, anterior and pelvic tilt, and whether any like twisting or lateral aberrations are happening because that one leg is to the side. All right, bring it to neutral in your torso and go ahead and flex your toes straight up to the ceiling. And then you're gonna touch the instep of your foot down, big toe forward, lift up, and then round your pinky toe back. So internal and external rotation at the hip that's being expressed where you can see it best down in the toes. Okay, walk your hands a little bit to the left, slide your right foot in some, and then crawl your hands forward and start to sit down in a half kneel and a half squat. So while you're here, you can play around with how far you can get your knee over your toe, play around with how wide you can get your knee while your big toe stays down. You can actually hook your index finger and middle finger from your opposite hand into your big toe and help it to splay open and ground down as you open your knee. Right? Lots of different ways to work on your squat on the one side. You can get low in your torso, hug your thigh in to your trunk and lean into it. And we'll go ahead and take that and express it sort of like a twist. So take your left hand, grab your left ankle, drop your elbow as low as you comfortably can, and then right hand to your right knee, pull a little on your ankle, push a little bit in your knee so that you can resist and lean back. Turn your gaze over your right shoulder. Good. Center, release, come up a level on your knee, slide out a level on your right leg, and you want to go into your squat with control, with alignment, big in second toe, center of foot, center of ankle, center of shin, center of knee, center of thighs, center mass of hip. Over here, when you're down, there's somewhat of an external rotation going on, but when you come up, it needs to internally rotate to stabilize, right? Sit low, find a stretch and strength, press into your heel, feel the hamstring on, and then bring it back with the adductor and some intentional internal rotation. A couple more times. Cool. Stay up the next time you come up. Slide your right leg long. Drop your left hand underneath your left shoulder. Modified side plank. Lift your top arm up on your inhale. Long on your exhale. Stay for a breath in. Push your hips forward to the long front edge of your mat. Exhale, cactus your arm. Feel your tricep pull into your lat. Feel that activation work together, and then long, breathe in. Exhale, engage, contract, cactus, long, inhale. This time up, hand to your hip. Engage your right leg. Float your right leg to the center of your hip, not higher. With control, tap down, like you're moving through quickcrete, and then back up, down, and up. You want to feel your butt, your side hip, your inner thigh, everything working. Up, Good. Now this time, if you want to stay up, you can stay up and get a little more stretchy with it by bending your knee, reaching back, grabbing your ankle. Whew. Now, somebody did 150 hip extensions today, and it shows. And if you want to just go back down into the stretch, grounded and extended long through your side, you can take that option instead. Okay, close it down to the ground, drop your right knee down, kick your left foot up so that you're in a low lunge now on the other side. So you want to slide your back leg as far back as you can. You want to try to open up, not just through the line, but also put the knee behind the line of your hip, true hip extension. Maybe you're down like I am right now. Maybe you're building it up and there's a little bit more engagement in that back leg, a little more drive down the heel of your front leg. If you're comfortable with putting this into some motion, you can lift your arms up, tip it as far back as you can comfortably contract your back, and then exhale, round down a couple of times. And exhale, release your hands to the ground, let your head hang down over your left leg, bump your right knee back once or twice, and then start to straighten your left leg, rebend. Straighten and rebend, but keep your torso low as you do so. Keep that nice hip flexion relationship happening. If you're feeling comfortable staying, then you can find a place to camp out for 5 or so breaths. If that doesn't normally work for you, but moving is working for you, then maybe stick with that paradigm. Your spine can be straight, your gaze can be forward, your leg can be straight, or you can be softer with a little bend in the knee, rounded in the spine. Good. Come back forward, take a quarter turn to your right so that your leg is extended. All right, cat and cow. Hands underneath your shoulders, supinated ankle here on the left ankle this time. Spread your fourth and pinky toe. Spread all your toes away from each other and lift up the arch of your foot by lifting up your inner thigh. Then sway your back. Inhale, cow, round and arch. Look underneath, cat. Keep it rolling another couple rounds and examine how well you're moving through that posterior and anterior tilt in your pelvis. That tilt your hip bones in the front forward and tuck your tailbone underneath you in the back without putting any twisting or C-curve crunchy side stuff in it. Okay, flex your ankle and notice if a lot of people, here's another thing that happens, and I have to remind myself, I flex my ankle, but then I also flex my big toe. Right? We're not trying to flex the big toe. A lot of times the big toe wants to take over for the ankle. So flex your ankle without flexing your big toe, engage your left quad, and then internal rotation, external rotation. You can do this in a way where it feels shitty. Don't do that. Find a range of motion and a level of engagement that allows you to express whatever much or limited range of motion you have at the hip safely, because this can be very healing, or it can kind of just grind stuff that's out of place deeper into being out of place. Okay, stay. return it back to sort of neutral, and then slide your leg in, half squat, half kneel, where you're sitting back into it and exploring that half squat. Explore it with the hip flexion, torso relationship. You can explore it with the toes and the knee outness. You can explore whether or not your knee wants to go over your ankle. Mine doesn't. Starting to consider that I just might be one of those people whose ankles don't move that way. Not like I haven't done yoga every day for 10 years straight. Everything else opened up, ankle's still stuck. Done all the PT stuff, done all the fancy stuff, still stuck. Sometimes it happens, all right? Take your right hand to your left ankle, take your left hand to your left knee, give a little pull and a little push, and then stack your left side over your right side, turn your chin to your right shoulder. Keep letting that knee open a little bit. Release to center, come on up a level, and then you're sliding a little wider. Still want that good hip, knee, foot, ankle alignment. Lean into it, engage a little external and then internal and adductors to come up. Hamstring and heel kind of preeminent throughout, but hip flexors turned on more in the deeper position and less in this top position. Last one. Come up, take your right hand down, kick your left leg long, modified side plank. All right, long with your right arm, whatever, left arm over your ear. Wind it up, cactus your arm. Inhale long. Contract. And long. One more time. Hand up into your hip. Lift your left leg, keep it active. Find that activity, find the squeeze, and keep the squeeze as you touch down and up, down and up. I think we're going about 4 or 5 times. And then if you want to go with the shoulder quad stretch, you can, if you can, or you can just go back down to the ground. Good, pivot and look straight down. Is that it? That even? We're even now? We're even now, okay? So, let's see how much time we have left. Wow. Flying by. Okay. So, let's do this. Sit down on your butt. Kick one leg forward, bend the other leg back. Take a second and assess, because maybe your knees are funky. And if your knees are funky, my foot is I'm sitting to the inside of my heel, fully elongated through the top of my foot, right? This is not happening. This can happen in some circumstances, but not what we're about to do. So I'm going to give you the, if you can do this all the way on the floor version first, and then I'll give you the modified version afterwards. So if you can do it all the way on the floor, it looks like this knee is all of the way closed. This thigh is actually, let's call that enough. And we're going to actually do the other side. And I'm going to walk you through the setup even more detailed. and then we'll circle back because this setup is worth understanding. When you close your knee like this, that's great. It's 95% of the way closed. It is not all of the way, as much as it can be closed. In order to close it as much as it actually can be closed, you actually have to slightly internally rotate your thigh. So right now, take your toes straight up, and then as much as you can from the thigh, roll in a little bit. Stay rolled in a little bit, make space, bend your knee, bring your heel outside your butt, and then sit back down. This is an all the way closed knee when you get the weight all of the way in it. So this is like sort of a hurdler stretch, but it's far more intense. This is like half hero, another intense stretch, okay? So knee-wise, this is important for knee health long term. Flushing things out, making sure that the joint gets space as much of like compressed and then open, right? Blood flow to it and whatnot. So if you can do this, great. If you can't do this, then there's modification. So now we'll call this side done. We'll add on. Flip it back to the other side. Now you know you need that slightly internally rotated position in order to really get it. Okay? From here, with the butt on the ground, lean it back. You can lean it back just like this. If that's enough of a quad stretch for you, stay. But you can certainly continue to lean it back down to your forearms. Then traditionally from there, you lift your chest up, drop your head back, and then eventually slide all of the way down. Then foot down, and then knee to chest. Now, for those of you who are a little bit more versed with the athletic space, what this ostensibly is a laying down version of the couch stretch, which normally you all stay, if you're staying, normally the couch stretch, you come up here, right? And then up here, and then you go back. It's like a really hefty low lunge. But let's say that you're actually needing a modification to make it more approachable. You lay on the ground, and if you've ever been to PT, you probably have seen this one before. Top of foot on the ground, lay back, it gives you space to work with so that the knee is not a factor, but you're still getting from the knee up to the ribs a nice fully integrated stretch, which is what we're trying to accomplish on the ground. So come on up, switch sides. If you're modifying, modify. And we'll do this side and then we'll flip flop one more time because these muscles are your biggest, densest muscles and you don't get into them quickly. It takes time. So if I was doing this on my own, I would stay down in this shape 2 minutes, 5 minutes plus. I know I am on the far more stable side. I am not I have no problems with hypermobility and I don't know one another. I'm stiff. Every little bit of flexibility that I have is worked for. So I can be in this shape a long time and it is not going to compromise my ligaments and my joints one little bit. And I know when I just don't feel it anymore, finally the muscles have relaxed. Okay, that's not true if you skew unstable or hypermobile at all. If you are in one of those camps, you need to be significantly diminished in the depth of the shape such that wherever you are with it, you can feel some level of engagement, some level of core activation, some level of butt and back of leg activation here to facilitate the stretch. All right, that's probably about even on this side. So switch it back out. Side number one last time. This pose is another really great one, okay? It's so much easier to relax into this shape in bed. Your bed is a much kinder, more forgiving surface on this bottom part of the shape than the ground is. So it's a lot easier to stay in this shape, like sitting here reading a book in bed or listening to a book in bed, than it is on the ground. There's a lot more feedback coming from the ground. So in the long run, if you have the wherewithal to stay longer on the ground, it's going to be a better, probably more integrated stretch. However, if it makes you tap out just because it's a harder surface, then it defeats the purpose of being here for longer, so to speak. Or if it makes you like tense because it's less comfortable. Okay, roll out, other side. Last time on this side. Huh. All right, we'll come on out. So options, if you have a nice dense pillow, you can use that. If you have a yoga block, you can use that. Essentially, all right, it's gonna be on your back, but you see how this is lining up more or less with like the top of my shoulders? That, but on the back. You want this part bowed up. And I've got an option for you if you don't have something like this. So first I'll just show you. You want your head lower than your heart. You want your shoulders opening up in the front. Okay, so there's that. Here's another option. If you have a couch, sorry, Siri. This one's a little square on the arm of the sofa, but you can go up and over backwards and let things open up that way too. Depends on how much space you have, like how much mobility you have in your trunk, in your T-spine specifically, whether or not that's gonna be comfortable. So again, heart above head, open up your throat as best as possible, right? Like if it's too much, find another something that you can put behind your head. So with your chest displaced like this upward, there's more of a compressive force of your lungs up into the front of your chest. Your abdomen is also stretched. It's a little bit more challenging to belly breathe, which you don't want to really be doing anyways. It's not that you don't want to breathe into your belly at all. It's just that you don't want to breathe so much into your abdomen that you lose the stretch of the muscles between your rib cage. So here, you have an opportunity to focus on that kind of breathing where you're expanding your rib cage a whole lot in the front and in the sides. You'll also get a little bit of a better understanding of how your throat plays into your breathing. If your throat is tight, you will have a harder time breathing here. So slow your breathing down so that you're not running headlong into tight throat muscles and constricting your breathing accidentally that way. Tuck your chin, come on up. Keep your prop handy. Take your left arm underneath. All right, for most people, it's just gonna look like this to some degree. If you have more internal rotation, your arm's gonna go up your back, and then you're gonna lay down on it. If your wrists and hands often feel funky, then instead of pursuing this like a front shoulder stretch, you can bias the shape so that you are optimizing your hand, wrist, forearm position, alignment, and the spread of your palm and the comfortability of your palm against the ground. That's also an option. Sit up or roll out, depending on how intense that was for you. Release the one arm, take your other arm, same to the same, but other side. Lay down. VinYin, asleep, please. Okay, however you want to roll out or roll up, go ahead. Release your arm. Okay. Whew. So, take your block, your prop. It can be, again, I'll show you how to do it without a traditional yoga block prop. Questionably traditional at any rate. right knee in to your chest, and then you're gonna guide your leg over. You're gonna roll in that direction to the right, from right to the left, okay? Go ahead and bias the shape to get your leg comfortably supported, and as long as possible. If it is not gonna happen, if it is not going to be comfortable at all to have your leg long, then just keep it bent, that's fine. But if you can get it long, there's a slightly more options with it, okay? So that would be what we're working with on the ground. Let's say you needed more space to work with. If you have a couch, a table, an ottoman, a wall, you can do the same thing, just up a level. So if you're tighter, you can always put it up higher and use your couch, for example. All right, let's say you're down on the ground like me, got the prop, the block, whatever, you're long, shimmy your shoulders a little bit to the left to bring your spine back in line with your pelvis, and then your right arm is open to the right. Okay, your gaze can be straight up, to the left, or to the right. That's going to be up to you. So maybe this is enough. You're getting a stretch in the outside of your hip or anywhere along your leg. You might also feel some compression in the inside of your hip. So wherever your leg landed, that's sort of your default. You can roll the thigh a little external. You can roll the thigh a little internal. You can play around with how up toward your chest your leg is. You can play around, it can be further down, right? So your leg can be 90 degrees, or it can be a little bit more of an acute angle with your torso than that. And that's going to customize the stretch. Now, one thing to be aware of is if you are compensating in your spine instead of twisting in the hips, all right? What that would look like is if the space between your right hip and your right armpit gets crunched up, if your right hip starts to roll up toward your right armpit, then you're compensating somewhere in your spine and you need to find some way to take a little tension out of the system. Maybe bend your knee more, maybe push your leg away from your chest a little more. There are many options, so feel free to explore. Okay, roll to the center, prop your left foot down, knee up, grab your right foot in your right hand. You can grab the outside edge, you can grab the inside edge, and you're gonna kick open, press into your this leg over here, your left leg is an anchor, and you're going to kick into your right leg. Now your right leg does not have to go long, you can just get your thigh down to the ground, and maybe that's comfortable. Or maybe it feels good, right, to extend your leg. You can bend and extend a couple of times, or just leave it extended. Release, and set up for your twist on the other side. Make sure you shimmy your shoulders a little bit to the right so that your spine is lined up with your pelvis. go ahead and return to your back. Plant your right foot with your knee bent to the ceiling. This is going to be your anchor leg. Grab your left foot in your left hand and roll a little bit to the left. You can bias it so that your thigh is on the ground as long as you're staying rooted down through your right leg. And you can stay bent, or depending on your hamstring and adductor length, right, you can open or rebend or in and out. Bring everything back in, hug both of your knees into your chest, hug your forehead up to your knees, squeeze everything for a moment, stay huddled up like this, contracted, and then relax. Take up space. Feel the weight of your bones against the ground. There's a lot of mystical language around some of the things that are yoga-centric, like Shavasana, right? But if you've ever done it long enough, you have this really interesting sensation of being like a boneless puddle on the ground. And I figured out for my own self that if you just stay here long enough, this is a very unique pose where the weight of your body is spread out so much so that there's like a maximum amount of surface area for gravity to hold on to. So your muscles don't actually have to work. Your autonomic muscular system, your heart, your lungs, they'll keep going, but everything else can kind of shut off. So if you don't move any muscles, you allow for the ground to hold everything, and eventually your body, being smart as it is, realizes that it doesn't have to work anymore, and so it just lets the ground hold you. And so that is where like the extremely deep wells of relaxation and sort of like reset comes from for Shavasana. It truly is such that if you lay here for long enough with the intention of not moving at all, your body, being an intuitive thing, realizes that it can actually completely relax. You're welcome to stay as long as you would like. If you are ready to come up, you can come up and close out. If you want to stay right where you are, you're also welcome to do that. All right. So take a moment, check in with yourself, and notice how you are lined up, maybe a little better, maybe just a little more aware. And whatever happened in the last hour, it's done. So we'll close it out with a cleansing breath. Breathe in and hold it all the way in at the top. Expand your rib cage, make it really full breath. Open up. Done. Thank you. See you in the den.